Okay, guys. So, of all the things in the Jefferson module, the one that you're probably going to struggle with a little bit is Marbury versus Madison and that Supreme Court case. So I'm going to go over it real quick. This won't take very long. And sorry, you have to look at my ugly face. So I apologize. First of all, what's going on here is President Adams, right before he leaves office, decides to appoint a bunch of judges. Literally the night before he was going to leave office, he wrote out the letters and got them ready to send out. When Jefferson takes over, he tells his cabinet member, Mr. Madison, not to send the letters. So this guy by the name of William Marbury never gets his letter to become a judge. Well, he really, really, really wants to be a judge. And so he sues the Jefferson administration. So a little background. The Chief Justice at the time was a guy by the name of Marshall, and him and Jefferson did not normally agree with things. Marbury puts this case in. Marshall says that he will decide to hear it. Jefferson protests, says they're not allowed to. Marshall and the Supreme Court looks at it, and they rule that the Supreme Court has the right to review certain types of cases. Marbury's case was not one of them, so they couldn't hear it. They couldn't rule on it. Marbury loses, doesn't become a judge. End of story. What the case really does is it establishes the right of the Supreme Court to review actions by the other branches. It's irregardless of whether or not you remember Marbury doesn't become a judge. He wanted to be a judge, yada, yada, yada. What you really need to remember about this is Marbury v. Madison allows the Supreme Court to rule on other cases. So it allows them to look at things like abortion issues and gun rights issues and marriage laws and things like that, all because of Marbury v. Madison and George Marshall's ruling that the Supreme Court can overhear these things. So what you need on this slide is pretty much all of this. You're going to need to write down all of this. And I'm going to go forward a little bit. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So don't get excited. So you see John Marshall wrote Marbury versus Madison to establish judicial review. And it made basically the judicial branch equal to the other two branches. Now, if you remember when we looked at the Constitution, the judicial branch only has one real power, and that is to review actions of the other two branches. So it appears the weakest. But this puts it on equal grounds because anything that the other branches do, they can now take a look at and possibly overrule it or side on the side of it and say it's okay. So this case is monumentally important. So bear with me. Don't get excited. We'll go back to the other slides, and you'll have plenty of time to take a look at all this stuff on your own time, because you can look at this video over and over again, which I know you will because you all miss looking at my wonderfully beautiful face. So if you go forward, the ruling by John Marshall allows for all of these other cases to be looked at by the court. So like McCullough v. Maryland, it establishes that states can't tax the federal government. State of Maryland tried to tax the government. It went to the Supreme Court and Maryland lost. Gibbons v. Ogden rules that the federal government does have control of interstate commerce. So that's when we trade stuff between Kentucky and Ohio. You know, like if somebody in Ohio wants to buy bourbon from Kentucky, that's controlled by the federal government. All of these cases wouldn't have happened if we didn't have Marbury v. Madison. Same thing with like when we get to Brown versus Board of Education in the 1950s, that ends segregated schools, or even more recent cases dealing with gun control, dealing with abortion, dealing with gay marriage. All of those go back to the very first case where Marbury v. Madison. I think that's pretty much going to straighten you out. If you guys got any questions, just email me. If you don't understand this or you need me to talk you through it, I can set up one of these video chats and I can directly talk to you. I don't have to do the whole class. I can do individuals, I can do groups, whatever. So, again, you're going to need everything on this slide. You're going to need everything on the other slide. So let me go back. You'll need everything on this one because it gives you pretty much an overview. And then you're going to need everything on that one. And you'll need everything on this. So as you're going through the slideshow, make sure you get all of those because they're really important. And there's a few questions on the multiple choice section about these, and you'll have some short answers about these. So make sure you get really, really good notes. Again, guys, if you got any questions, just let me know.